Hi, this is Chris Romansky, the maker of Hamsterdam, here today to give you a playthrough. So to start out with Hamsterdam, you're going to get 11 cards. These represent your dam, and they're numbered 2 through 12. And each one represents a roll of 2 dice. And each one has a number of hamsters that come with it based on the likelihood that you will roll that number. So higher probability means you're going to get more hamsters. The special thing would be if you have a 7, which has 2 blue dots, this gets you 2 special hamsters. So looking at your cards, you will have to pass 1 card to your left and 1 card to your right. Now there's a little bit of strategy in this because you can pass some numbers with low probability and then you can end up with more than the 14 hamsters that you would get if you had standard 2 through 12, or you can pass your high probability cards and then you can end up with fewer hamsters but numbers that don't roll as often. So for the sake of this video, I am going to pass a 2 that has no hamsters. I'm going to pass that over to my right, and I'm going to pass, let's see, we'll pass an 8. That one's going to have a lot of hamsters because 8s will roll fairly often. So I'm going to pass that one to my left. And then I'm going to collect cards from my neighbors, and they passed me a 5 and an 11. So now I get to set up my dam any way that I would like. A couple things to keep in mind is that there is a bit of a catch-up mechanism that causes you to flip cards over on the outsides of your dam. So if you want to get rid of cards that are going to come up more often, then you want to end up placing those a little bit closer to the edges of your dam. Another thing to consider is that there's a movement phase where you get to move hamsters around your dam, and where your cards are located, there's a little bit of strategy as to how you want your cards to be arranged due to that. So for this, let's see, so we'll just do a setup here. So I'm going to throw a 7 on the end because that's going to come up pretty often. Then I'll put the 6 next to that so that I've got those pretty close to the end. And then we'll just kind of speed things up here and just start placing some cards. Alright. So now this is my dam as it's set up. And I get to now get these standard hamsters based on the number of orange dots that I have. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So actually the cards that I passed and the cards I got ended up netting me the same amount of hamsters. So if I count them out, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have 14 standard hamsters. Then the next step that you would do is make sure that you take 1 twinster out of your special hamsters and set it aside. There's another twinster. They come together. If they're both in your special hamsters deck when you deal them out, then you might end up with 2 people trying to pick the same one. So it's just a way to keep any confusion out with the twinster. So you shuffle the special hamsters, and then since I have 2 blue dots for my 7, I get 4 special hamsters to choose from. And I get to keep 2 of them. So let's see. I will grab a Blobster and I will grab the Huckster. The other 2 hamsters that you have, special hamsters, they will be put back in the box and are gone for the game. Okay, so now I get to take my hamsters and I get to set up my dam. You get to place them however you want. You can put as many on the spaces as you would like that you get to stack. I'm going to start out with a single layer here, and then I'm going to throw some extras on some numbers that are likely to come up more often. Okay, now the special hamsters that you picked up, these go on top of your regular hamsters. The only reason you put them on top is because they've got some text in there that tells you when they can be used, what they do. It's a little bit easier to figure out in case you forget what they do. So I'm going to put, let's see, Lobster over there on 9, and I'll put the Huckster over here on 7. Extra Twinster gets to go away. Okay, so now each person would roll the dice. Highest roll ends up being the first player. They get the turn tracker. You use this so that you can keep track of the turns as you are rolling the dice so that you don't lose your place in the game. And you take one of the flood tokens, which are these blue winks here, and you put it on 1 so that you have something to keep track. You take the rest of the flood tokens then and put them in the middle of the play area so everybody has a chance to reach those if they need them. And you're ready to begin. So on your turn, you get to roll the dice, and a flood will strike the location that matches the number that you roll. So I rolled a 6, so that means I have a flood starting at 6. So the way that you would stop a flood is if you have any hamsters here, then you take one off. You don't take any floods coming through that location, but this hamster goes over to your reinforcement pile. Your reinforcement pile hamsters will come back at the end of a round. That's when the turn tracker hits a set number here for based on the number of players. They all work out to be that after 12 rolls, the round ends and they start a new round. So once you hit your 12 rolls, then your reinforcement hamsters will come back out onto your dam. Okay, so now I rolled a 6. Everybody has to defend a 6 on their dam, and then the dice move to the next player. So next player rolls, and let's see, so they get an 11. So now I could, since I have a hamster here, I can do the same thing we did for the 6, take them off, move them to the reinforcement pile. My other option is, since I have the Blobster, he can stop a flood at his current location or at either adjacent spot. So what I can do is I can say, instead of using my hamster here, I'm going to use my special hamster and use its ability. So that puts my Blobster over to my reinforcement pile, but I get to keep my hamster on 11. So now, let's say we get a few more rolls, and okay, next roll is a 5. So I have 2 5s on my dam. So I have to do the same thing I did on 6, where I take a hamster, but I have to do it off of both of them. So now I have 2 hamsters. They're going to my reinforcement pile. So the next person rolls, say we're doing a 4-player game, they also roll a 5. Okay, so now 1 5, I've got a hamster there, and that can work the same as a 6 here, and we take this hamster and move it to the reinforcement pile. But now my other 5 didn't have a hamster. My Huckster takes effect during a movement phase, so that doesn't have anything to do with right now for defending a flood. So it's open. I have to take a flood token, and I have to put it on the 5, so now it's on the dam. So now if a 5 gets rolled again, this location right here is going to get a flood going through. So I would take a water, it comes through, and now this is in my personal town's flood pile. The end game is based on the number of flood tokens that make it through to a person's flood pile. So it's important to keep track of these and make sure that everybody can see them when they come through. Alright, so we went through 4 rolls. That was a complete turn for everybody. Now you have the opportunity to move 1 hamster 1 space during your movement phase. So I can take one off at 9, and I can move it to 12. I can take one off of 4, and I can move it to 5. But you see how there's a flood token here? So if I do this, that'll clear this flood token, but then this hamster gets removed from the game. So I would have 1 less to defend with. Another option I have is that I have this Huckster here, and the Huckster has an ability during the movement phase. So what he allows me to do is, instead of moving a hamster on my dam, I can move a hamster on somebody else's dam. Now he has this little red arrow here. That means that if I use that ability, he flips over. And now he's just a standard hamster. And he has if he gets removed to block a flood and ends up going over to the reinforcement pile, there's some text on here describing that as he gets moved there, then he gets flipped back up, so that when I go to redeploy, he becomes a huckster again. So I'm going to do that. Let's say I move to hamster. We roll again. Oh no, I have bad luck. I have a 5. Okay, so I don't have a hamster on this 5 now, so that 5 takes a flood token. Another flood comes through. Let's say really bad luck. 5 rolls again. So now I have 2 5s here with flood tokens on them. I get 2 more coming through. I now have 3 flood tokens. So now when you hit 3 flood tokens, then your dam starts to breach. So in order to handle a dam breach, what you do is you choose either your left or your right side of your dam, and you get to flip one of those cards over. So I've planned ahead, I want this 7 to go. So what happens is, I take this 7, I flip it to the back side, and then I take all my hamsters and I move them to the next card over. And that's how you handle the dam breach. So now, if a 7 gets rolled, I don't have a 7 on my dam anymore. So I've got extra flood tokens here above some other players potentially, but now I have less of a dam to defend. If there was a flood token, say on the 6, then when I move my hamsters over here, I have to get rid of one and remove it from the game, and then clear the flood token, and then the remaining hamsters would go over to my 6. So let's say I have horrible, horrible luck. We rolled a 5 again. 2 more flood tokens come in. So the first breach happens at 3. The next breach happens when you get 5. So same kind of deal. Now my 6 is gone. Now every time you take a flood token after that, so each flood token you take in above 5, you have another dam breach. Any water that's on a card, so let's say I have a flood token on this 10 on the outside here, and we have another breach. This 10 flips over, the flood token that was on it goes to my town's flood pile. So everybody's taken their turns, we've advanced the turn marker to the appropriate level, we have ended a round. Now I get to take any hamsters that I had over in my reinforcement pile, and I get to place them on my dam. So I can clear a flood token by getting rid of a hamster, and then I can place hamsters wherever I want. If there was a flood token here, I wouldn't be able to put a hamster on here. It's locked in, so I'd have to work around it and do something like that. But because I got rid of a hamster to clear a flood token, I can do that and reinforce my dam some more. So you keep playing until 5 times the number of players worth of flood tokens comes through. So that's 10 flood tokens in a 2-player game, 20 flood tokens in a 4-player game, and then the game will end as soon as that happens. At least 20, or at least 5 times the number of players, and then you count up the number that you've got in your town's flood pile plus any that you might have on your dam. So let's say I have that situation there. So I would have 7 total flood tokens, and if somebody had 4, they'd end up being the winner over me. And that is how you play Hamsterdam. Thanks for watching.